Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Thursday, the 26th day of December, 2024. It's Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, and trust you had a great Christmas with family and friends. Now, as we conclude 2024, we're going to be looking at the stories that have made the news this year, as well as looking forward to what may happen in 2025. So fasten your seatbelt. We have five huge stories we're going to deal with today. First of all, Israel considers opening the gates of hell on Hamas to bring the hostages home. That's from Israel HaYom. We'll talk about it. Then we find that multiple Syrian rebel groups agree to dissolve to join the new government. That's from Israel National News. We'll talk about that. Then a great story, 2024, the year Trumpism triumphed and put globalists on the run in Europe. It's a Breitbart story, and it's a fantastic story. We'll again refer to that. And here, this next story gives you an idea what Israel had to face. Get this, 85,000 Hezbollah weapons have been seized in southern Lebanon just since October in the last couple of months. 85,000 weapons. That's from Israel National News. And then the one right now, the most important of the day, the Houthis have been firing missiles. They've fired at central Israel four times in the past week. One of the missiles actually hit in Tel Aviv. It got past the defense system and caused a lot of destruction, some injuries. So the UN Security Council is going to hold an emergency meeting on the attacks. This is from the Times of Israel. We'll be talking about those. So these are all huge stories, and they're developing stories too. The stories that'll have legs to them that will continue on into the next year. Now, with respect to what we're doing here on our YouTube channel, on our app, EOW with Don Stewart, that's in both the app stores, it is free, and our website, Educating Our World. Monday through Friday, we're going to be doing breaking news first thing in the morning, like we always do. Saturday will be something new. It'll be the breaking news, the week in review with a summary of the main stories of the week. It probably won't be first thing in the morning done, but it'll be done on Saturday. And then starting a week from Sunday, we'll begin our new feature called Sunday Sermons, where we give a message like I would be doing in a church on Sunday morning. I've been doing actually sermons in various churches around the world since 1970, so it's been what 55 years, something like that. We've been up to doing that, and so we have a book. One of my books is called My 25 Favorite Messages That I Preach. And we're going to start with those. I think you'll really enjoy them. They've been very helpful to people over the years. So we'll start doing that a week from Sunday. All right. Now, while we don't plan to do breaking news on either Saturday or Sunday, we do reserve the right to do stories as warranted. So we'll see what happens. And we eventually do plan to do a second video each day, Monday through Friday, that will specifically deal with Bible issues. So thanks for your prayers on all of this as we try and streamline what we're doing here for the year 2025. We're looking forward to it. We're thankful for each and every one of you. And the Lord has continued to bless this ministry and again, a lot of it has to do with your prayers and your support and your encouragement. It means an awful lot to us here. All right, let's get to the stories. These are fascinating stories, all five of them. First of all, headline number one: Israel considers opening the gates of hell on Hamas to bring the hostages home. This is from Israel HaYom. In Israel, there is a sense that Trump is focused on the release of the hostages and securing a decisive victory to end the war. How these goals are achieved does not seem to concern him, and that's the key. Senior Israeli officials state that beginning January 20th, 2025, it will be possible to take additional actions in Gaza. The prevailing impression in Israel is that Trump does not particularly care what measures Israel employs in the Gaza Strip. He has two clear objectives, namely the release of the hostages and an Israeli victory to conclude the war. The methods to achieve these aims appear irrelevant to him. In Jerusalem, as well as in Kiryat in Tel Aviv, preparations for the Trump era are kept under strict secrecy. When the moment arrives, if no deal has been reached by then, Israel is expected to reset the rules of engagement against Hamas. Many of the tools currently restricted by Joe Biden's lame duck administration, alongside specific demands on Israel, will no longer apply, and praise God for that. A senior Israeli official expressed hope that Prime Minister Netanyahu and Major General Nitzan Alon will seize the opportunity to operate entirely out of the box. The official emphasized the need to break away from the current pattern where the terrorist organization sustains itself through hostages or uses released prisoners to replenish its ranks. What actions could Israel take that are currently off the table? Well, according to the source, humanitarian aid that the outgoing administration insisted Israel deliver to Gaza will no longer matter to Trump. Reducing such aid or taking full control over what enters the Strip could worsen Hamas's situation and increase pressure on the organization to release the hostages. Another critical aspect is armaments. Trump has pledged to release all the weapons shipments currently delayed under Biden on his first day in office. Once the delayed bombs and shells arrive, the IDF will have the means to expand its military operations significantly. Additionally, the official noted that population transfers, if deemed necessary by Israel for dismantling Hamas or securing the hostages, would likely face little opposition under Trump. Israeli officials estimate that the incoming administration will not demand accountability as long as the message is do what you need to do. We won't dictate your actions. So from January 20th onward, Netanyahu will no longer have to justify measures such as providing fuel and dual-use materials to Gaza under U.S. pressure. Instead, he would have Trump's support to halt these supplies entirely. Drastic steps from the war's early days, such as limiting electricity and water, could be reinstated. So if no agreement is reached in the coming weeks, Israel could intensify alternative approaches such as offering financial rewards or exile deals. While the IDF and Shin Bet have so far pursued this strategy cautiously, posters have been distributed across Gaza and messages dictated by Hamas, and hostage videos suggest that the offer has reached them. Now, Israeli officials believe that Hamas understands what's going to happen. They may be willing to do something before that. We will see. Now, opening the gates of hell to us seems to be the only answer. While many stories have appeared in the last week or so claiming progress in the hostage talks, what do we find? Hamas continues to move the goalpost after agreeing to certain conditions. And as we have indicated over and over again, they will never release the hostages because in doing so, they'd have to give up all claims to their future rule in Gaza. And they'll never do this. So it's going to be a real mess. Now, speaking of messes, let's go now to Syria, this other huge story we have. We have a number of huge stories here. Multiple Syrian rebel groups agreed to dissolve to join the government. This is from Israel National News. Ahmed al-Shara, he's the new leader. That's his new name he took. The de facto leader of the post-Assad Syria announces that he reached an agreement with the leaders of the various rebel groups to consolidate their forces under the new defense ministry. All right. He announced that Tuesday that he has basically reached an agreement with the leaders of these rebel groups. And following the fall of the Assad regime, under the agreement, the rebel groups will lose their independence and be integrated into a new Syrian army under the defense ministry. He previously stated that he would absolutely not allow there to be weapons in the country outside of state control, amid concerns that Syria could descend into chaos with these multiple rebel groups fighting for control in the wake of Assad's ouster. And so supposedly the whole country is going to be restructured with integration of these former groups, as well as officers who defected from Assad's regime's military. All right, so anyway, well, this is whatever it ends up being. It's not going to turn out well. We know that. It's going to be an absolute mess. So we'll keep an eye on that. And so he's already taken control, and he's announced too that Syria will be ruled by Sharia law, and that's problem number one. Okay, so that's a big thing. Okay, headline number 3. This from Breitbart. The year Trumpism triumphed and put globalists on the run in Europe. As Brexit foreshadowed Donald Trump's victory in 2016, the defeat of Kamala Harris and the Democrats the year was preceded by the fall of globalists in Europe, as Trumpism and the populist message began to erode power structures across the Atlantic. Upon entering office in 2016, Trump was not only faced with opposition at home in the form of Democrats, you've got the Russiagate, Russia conspiracy, the deep state, the neocons, and all the opponents in his own party, but also he had to face the leaders of Europe with firm power bases that enabled them to push back against the aims of the first Trump administration. Well, fast forward 8 years. As Trump prepares to take back the reins of power in Washington and the domestic opposition is in total disarray, which it is here in the U.S., those who would seek to thwart his vision for the world in capitals like Berlin, Brussels, London, or Paris have largely either fallen by the wayside or have been brought low by fleeting legitimacy in their homelands and abroad. Meanwhile, Trumpism appears to be catching on in Europe, with key figures in the international populist movement making major gains and in some cases entering into government into government countries where it would be unthinkable just a few years ago. The populist, rule parties have really gained a lot of strength in Europe, and rightly so, because it's for the people. And so this has been really interesting. So here's the bottom line. We hope and pray that many good things will result from the change in administrations. Biden, of course, has been an absolute disaster on every front. Now, speaking of disasters, this is the next story. Is going to show the predicament that Israel has been in southern Lebanon. Okay, since we mentioned this at the outset, 85,000 Hezbollah weapons have been already seized in southern Lebanon just since October. 85,000. It's from Israel National News. Since the beginning of the ground operation in southern Lebanon, the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, has confiscated over 85,000 weapons, missiles, and military items, including rocket launchers, anti-tank missiles, RPGs, rifles, explosives, munitions, and anti-aircraft missiles, observation devices, and military vehicles. They announced Wednesday evening, that was last night, that over 85,000 weapons and pieces of military equipment belonging to Hezbollah have been seized just since the start of this mission when they've gone into Lebanon in October. And it's incredible what they've, excuse me, what they've seen. So they will continue doing this. They're continuing in southern Lebanon. It's going to be interesting to see because they were supposed to have a 60-day time period. Remember, then they're supposed to get totally out. Well, the 60-day time period won't expire until after Donald Trump takes office. It'll be really interesting to see what takes place. Now, this last story here is the most urgent. We mentioned this. This is one we're going to really keep an eye on. The Houthis fire missile at central Israel for the fourth night in the past week. The IDF intercepts it. And we've also got the UN Security Council to hold emergency meetings on the attacks. Israel admits, and here's the bottom line, that it alone cannot nullify the Houthis' ability to fire long-range missiles to Israel, as well as on the shipping lanes. The Western world needs to come together to eliminate this scourge. And this is what's been going on. Like we said at the outset, Israelis are losing sleep because of the air raid sirens on the last week, at least 4 different nights, waking them up, and people have to hit the shelters because these missiles coming all the way over from Yemen are on the way to Israel. And there was one that actually hit in Tel Aviv and made some really destructive result. It got by the defenses of Israel. So it's a real problem. And the Houthis are going to continue to do this. They have some very advanced weapons. So the bottom line is Israel needs the help of the U.S. and others. And so there's much up in the air right now, as we've seen with these stories. Okay, we'll keep you posted on all of these stories, along with many others, and believe me, there are many. In the meantime, please check out our website, Educating Our World, and then our various free resources, especially our book, 25 Signs We're Near the End, found under the heading of Bible prophecy. And like we always say here, we know where all of this is going. The Bible tells us we got the last act of the play for us, the last chapter of the book, the last scene of the movie, however we want to illustrate it, told to us. Jesus Christ will return as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But in the meantime, we don't know how we're going to get there. So it's very interesting to see, watching everything come together, the pieces of the puzzle just fitting amazingly. So we'll keep you posted on all this. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Don Stewart. Until the next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.